Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, today we are going to be tackling the last tank in the gallery. It is the 75-gallon right here, right behind me. Now, the thing about this 75-gallon is, of course, we wanted 5 tanks back here. We're going to have 5 tanks. There's some things we still have to do. If you're seeing this now, we might have already done it, and that is paint the rest of that wall, get the coverings down on the floor, and get the stuff up on the walls, because it's not just going to be blank walls. But this 75-gallon is going to look a lot different than the tanks that you've seen previously. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for being here. So yeah, this is a 75-gallon right here, and it is the last tank that we have to do. Don't worry, that ugly window there, we're going to get window coverings for that as well. Again, we're just trying to do both things at the same time, and that is get the tank done while still finishing up the rest of the room. And as we kind of pan around, you can see here we've got the 125s, the 50-gallon low boy, and what started it all was that 75 Lake Tanganyika tank. Well, in this video, we are going to be finishing that last tank, and then we can actually turn our attention more to the fish room side of things. So let's get started. All right, everyone, so this was step 1 in getting this 75-gallon set up. This background is from Aqua Decor. It is outstanding, and so we went with a little bit of a different style than what we've done before, where we give ourselves a little bit of a rest in the center of this background. It actually came in 4 different pieces, really easy instructions as to how to install it. One of the things they asked is, am I going to be running a canister filter? Do I need an intake? And I said yes. And so they build that in for me right here. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a space there for the intake, and there is a guard here that is going to allow for us to get water behind the background through the intake, and then it will come out the return on the other side. So we have some aquascaping to do now, but I absolutely love this background and cannot wait to get this tank done. All right, so here we have my work so far. I have actually gone a number of different directions with this aquarium. I started out with this more spider looking wood down here. I wasn't feeling that, so then I came back and I used this wood here. I have no idea what it's called. I'm not an aquascaping expert. Just like the way it looks, picked out similar pieces. It's actually 4 different pieces that I would have to glue together. And then we've got some rocks that more or less match the backdrop. I'm probably going to call Joanna down here and see what she thinks. We're limited on the rocks that we have at this point in terms of the color. I have a lot more that are more brown, but I'm not really feeling that. I try to put some of those in there as well. So again, this is an Mbuna tank, and right now putting wood in there, yes, I've ruined the whole idea of a biotope. I don't really want a biotope. I don't want rocks only. I like the wood. It's just a matter of maybe changing a few things around. We'll see. All right, so I think this is my final rendition of this tank. I added one more. I found one more piece of driftwood that looked like the rest over here, and it actually, believe it or not, made a big difference because it kind of brought more symmetry here. I know, some aquascaping experts will say don't center your aquascape, but just based on the 3D background, that open space is kind of centered. And so when I moved the driftwood to the left or to the right, it wasn't working. It just wasn't appealing to me. So that's how I'm going to roll with it. Next step is to glue it all together. And that's it for the scape. I'm not adding any plants because this is an Mbuna tank. They're going to eat the plants. It's simple. I've got some really cool fish going in here. I'm going to fill this thing up with water, get the filtration up and running, and then we're going to add the fish. All right, everybody, so we've got the water in the aquarium. The filter is up and running. Going to let this tank chill out. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be adding fish. We'll finally get this last tank stocked up and ready to go. Really excited about it. I think it looks pretty cool. Not planted because the fish that are going in here are going to eat the plants. So let's let this tank chill out. We'll come back in the morning. I'll show you what I add. All right, so let's talk about the equipment first and the decorations. Like I said, we've got the wood, we've got the rocks. The sand is just the black sand that we get from Petco, PetSmart. Nothing special there. The filter on here is a Fluval 407. If you want more information, I just did a review on that filter. I'll put that in the upper right-hand corner, but I've got those on 2 tanks now, both the 75s in the gallery. And then the light is the AI Aqua Illumination Blade Light. I've done a review on that recently, which I will also put in the upper right-hand corner. These are absolutely by far my favorite lights, and I am so happy that they are illuminating the entire gallery because They make the tanks look awesome. Big thank you to Aqua Illumination for sending us these lights, because I really wanted to highlight them after seeing them at Aquashella, and they are really, 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 really nice lights. So check out that review if you want to see more. All right, so here are the first fish that are going to be added to this tank right from the start. No, this is not a biotope. As I set this tank up, I didn't want a biotope. I originally intended just to do this background, just to do the rocks, put the Mbuna cichlids in there. And then as I started playing with the rocks, I'm like, I'm not enjoying the way this tank appears. And so I added in the wood, and I really much more enjoy the way this tank looks in terms of the aquascape. It's very simple. There are no plants. So it's just the 3D background, a few rocks, some wood, and some really cool fish. And so let's talk about these fish. There's actually 2 different types of fish in here. And right now there are 11 inhabitants. A lot of them are hiding behind the rocks and behind the wood. But what we have here are the Pseudotropheus solosi. I've done a species profile on this fish before. I will put that in the upper right-hand corner if you want to learn more. It is probably my favorite Mbuna cichlid, and the reason I love it so much, it is one of the less aggressive Mbuna. And what's cool about them is they're 2 different colors. And so the blue fish that you see in there, that's a male. The yellow fish is a female. So it's a nice fish if you want more than one color. And I've had these fish in the fish room for many, many, many years. I had them in 40-gallon breeders and 55-gallon tanks and the 75-gallon Mbuna tank. And they were never aggressive towards one another, even when I had the male-female ratio heavily flipped. At one point in a 40 breeder, I might have had 7 or 8 of these fish in that tank, and I think I had like 4 or 5 males. And yet they still managed to get along just fine. The other fish that I have in this aquarium are yellow labs, and so they're going to give us more of that yellow color. Not going to contrast completely with the females of the solosi, but again, I'm picking Mbuna that are going to be peaceful. What I don't want in this tank is a war, and so I'm trying to add fish to the aquarium that is going to give me a relatively peaceful Mbuna tank. I'm not done stocking this tank. I'm going to add a couple bristlenose plecos, but I'm also going to add a mid-water fish. Again, this is not a biotope, but the fish that I'm going to be adding, it is going to get along, most likely get along just fine with the Mbuna cichlids. In fact, I fully believe that they're probably just going to ignore one another completely. I will tell you now that that fish will not be an African cichlid, but it will be a fish that will fit in well with this tank. So I'm really happy with the way the tank turned out. I'm happy with the inhabitants. They are going to get larger, and so that's the other thing too with both the yellow labs and the solosi. These are not really large Mbuna cichlids, and so some of them can get pretty large. Like the ACI is a great fish, and it's peaceful, but it, a 7 or 8 fish Mbuna in a 75-gallon, sometimes that doesn't look quite right with the rest of the inhabitants. So the solosi max out right around 4.5 inches or so, and the yellow labs, the males can get a little bit bigger than that. But again, they're one of the more mellow fish out there, especially for Mbuna. The other thing too is these fish are not known to dig excessively. Is there going to be some digging around the rocks and the wood? Probably. Is it going to be excessive where they're stacking up huge mounds of sand? Most likely not. A lot of people ask about the stocking, the number of fish you should have in this tank. I've actually got more yellow labs coming in as well, because ideally in a 75-gallon such as this, I've had somewhere around 20 or so Mbuna cichlids, and I think that worked out pretty well. Right now, I believe we have 5 solosi and we have 6 yellow labs in this aquarium. So we're at 11. I think that's a little bit too light for a 75-gallon. Granted, that 3D background does take up some of the space, but I'm probably going to add maybe a half a dozen more or so yellow labs or solosi, and then I'm going to have that mid-water schooling fish that I think is really going to add something different to the tank. But at this point, the 5 gallery tanks are complete, and now we turn our attention just to the extras, the walls, like I had mentioned in a previous video, moving the live stream equipment down into the gallery, which is going to be a lot of fun. And so it has been a lot of fun setting up these 5 tanks and me being able to aquascape something I didn't know, or at least decorate the tank, something I really didn't know I had in me to do. And so that was a really exciting thing. So thank you so much for being here. Again, if you want more information on Pseudotrophia sloci, take a look at that video in the upper right-hand corner. If you want to see more of the gallery build, take a look at the lower right-hand corner. Thanks for being here.